Have you heard the latest rumour for the Flash movie? There's 20 minutes of footage being added on to the movie. It's a rumour. 20 minutes of footage that Access Media haven't seen at the CinemaCon screening, and fans who have gone to that advanced screening haven't seen either. Ooh, I wonder if I saw it in the test screening. Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. You can follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad. Smash the like button if you love me. Subscribe if you're new. And please have your say. A very, very warm welcome to Saturday's edition of the DC Universe Daily. Yes, the big rumour is, everyone, boys and girls and you in between, or however you identify, you're all welcome here. Believe you me. The more the merrier. Let's party. Yes, so that's the rumour, that they're going to add 20 minutes of footage to the Flash movie. Now, if this is the case, could this help the dwindling opening box office? Is the 70 million opening domestic weekend an accurate projection, or could it be better when we get there? It needs to be there, but it's not important for the future. We already know that. But 20 minutes of footage, that's very, very interesting. Can 20 minutes of footage save this movie? Does this movie need saving? Well, you won't know that until you've seen it. So there's no point answering that question, by the way. I'm very happy with your interactions. Please interact, give me your opinion. But until you've seen the movie, as I have, you can't judge it. But here's the thing. If they are adding 20 minutes of footage from the screenings that they've seen at CinemaCon and the advanced fan screening, that's very, very interesting. We already know the advanced fan screening the other day was the same screening as the one at CinemaCon. And personally, I'd rather have not seen that, at the end of the day. So I think that it's very important that they've taken 20 minutes away from advanced screenings and the CinemaCon screening. Because why? Why do I think this? Because I don't think that fans should be going to advanced screenings. And I don't think a bunch of Access Media should be sitting there in a plush fucking cinema watching an advanced screening before the fans get to see it. But Mick, you've seen a test screening. Yes, and I'm very lucky. But if they'd stopped test screenings, it wouldn't bother me, because at least we all get to see them at the same time. I like seeing them, don't get me wrong. I like doing videos discussing them and what I think of them. But the point is, it wouldn't bother me. I'm a bit of a communist in a way. I want everyone to be treated fairly, and I think, I think these advanced screenings don't work. And I think that Hollywood needs to change the way it does things. Because I think if Hollywood doesn't change the way it promotes its movies, they're going to be in bigger trouble than they already are. Because New Hollywood are in trouble. But this whole advanced screening, these initial reactions to movies, it's the best movie ever. It's The Dark Knight, it's Superman the movie. Nobody believes this shit. The reactions that came out the other day from the fan advanced screening and the CinemaCon are seen as bullshit. Not one person, unless you're a fucking imbecile, believes the initial reactions. And if you do believe the initial reactions, you need to check your brain at the doorway. Clearly, you already have. You have to be clever by now. Go back, go on Twitter, go on Google, and look back at the initial reactions for Justice League and how dishonest they were. Not one initial reaction called that movie a pile of shit, which it was, right? Nobody called out the CGI. Nobody called out that movie at all. I wonder why. And you trust people who go to early fan screenings. You trust people who saw the Flash movie at CinemaCon. You believe that Tom Cruise loves this movie. Maybe he does. I don't know. I'm not going to speak for Tom Cruise. It's a very, very weird situation. Then Stephen King. Where did this shit come from, right? David Zaslav. He's doing this. They did it on purpose to try and get hype. I don't blame them. It's their company. It's their product. They're trying to sell it, right? I don't mind them doing that. I don't like people coming out of advanced screenings and fucking lying and over exaggerating about the quality of a movie. And, but I think, so this is why I'm glad that if they have taken 20 minutes of footage out of the movie and they're putting it back in, that's a very good idea. I said the other day that I do feel that there's an ending we haven't seen to this movie. There's an ending that I haven't seen to this movie, and I think that's brilliant. I think that's brilliant that because at this moment in time, we know too much about this movie. You know, the DCEU had far too many leaks, and I don't like the leaks. I don't enjoy the leaks. I don't enjoy knowing lots about a movie before I go and see it. I don't like that. I mean, yes, if I've gone to see a test screening, I have the information already. But you guys don't, and it's not fair because you're getting leaked and spoiled. I've already gone on YouTube channels and videos basically spoiling the entire Flash movie. That's not right. That's not on the platforms. That's on the studio for not protecting the movies and allowing them to leak. But in many circumstances, WB leaked this shit on purpose. Andy Muschietti's already leaked the fact that Christopher Reeve's Superman cameos in this movie in CGI. Of course, the man passed away back in 2004, so it's not possible for him to cameo, but he will cameo with CGI. Now, we already knew this. Andy wasn't spoiling the movie, but you've got to at least pretend to be keeping your secrets. But the DCEU was run so badly because the leaks were terrible. Now, interestingly enough, there were no leaks about Zod being killed by Superman in Man of Steel. When Zack was there weren't any leaks. It was only after Zack left, after BVS, when the real leaks began. Now, a lot of the leaks, Zack was leaking himself because he was trying to help get the Snyder Cut released, and he's leaked a lot of things. A bit like the whole, Final Crisis thing, being teased at the end of the Flash movie. Zack teased the Final Crisis graphic novel in that Thanksgiving Vero post with the turkey, if you remember rightly. So Zack does leak things, but nothing got leaked. I didn't know what was going to happen in BVS. There wasn't many leaks about BVS. There wasn't many, if any, leaks about Man of Steel. It was only after Zack left that DC had a problem. But was it a problem, or was it a self-inflicted problem? Were they leaking their shit on purpose? Because when you start leaking shit like they were for Shazam! Fury of the Gods, that means you don't trust your audience to come in. I see a lot of spoilers for stuff these days, and it's because creatively, New Hollywood and New Western English-speaking entertainment don't have enough faith in their audience to come in and watch their stuff automatically. I didn't need any spoilers for Lost every week. I was going to come in and watch Lost. I didn't need spoilers for Smallville 24, Fringe, or whatever they were making, because it was the height, the golden age of entertainment, English-speaking Western entertainment. We are not at that age anymore. Now, they have to force us to watch shit. And when we don't, they criticize us. Apparently, I'm homophobic for not watching Bros, even though before the actor actually spat his dummy out and called us all, homophobes, right? I never heard of the Bros movie. I never heard of that movie. Never. So that's where we are now. The director of the latest Charlie's Angels a few years ago basically blamed men for her movie flopping because nothing's their fault. That, you're dealing with a bunch of self-entitled, spoiled little brats. The reason I didn't watch Bros is not because I'm basically got any issue with gay people or the LGBTQ community. I don't like romantic comedies. I would never go and see a straight or gay romantic comedy, which makes me a bigot for not liking romantic comedies. I like my superheroes. I like my psychological thrillers. When I watch TV or a movie, I want to cry. I want to feel emotion. I want to laugh. I want to question my life choices. My rewatch of Lost right now is so emotional. It's so impactful, even though I've seen it so many times, because the characters work. And as I say, it was a golden age of Western English-speaking entertainment, and we're not there now. And, I must admit, I am feeling a lot of superhero fatigue right now. There's no question about that. I am feeling tired of superheroes. I do miss the Snyderverse. I do feel the Snyderverse is quality we don't get today. It was exciting watching Man of Steel and Batman vs Superman, and later on the Snyder Cut. There was something special about those days. They did feel unique. They did feel different, not for the sake of being unique and different, because Snyder had his own vision. And apart from Aquaman, Snyder's movies made more money than the other movies. That's a fact. Now, interestingly, people may throw Wonder Woman, the first Wonder Woman. Well, that film made 800 million, Mick. Man of Steel only made 650. That's true. But Zack Snyder developed the Wonder Woman movie. He co-wrote the movie with comic book writer Alan Heinberg. He put that movie together. He shot all the choreography, including No Man's Land. And Patty shot all the other stuff. So Patty was involved in places, but Zack was the one who developed that movie. So really, even though they kind of took the film away from him a little bit in the end and restructured Wonder Woman, ultimately Zack put that film together. And it works because of Zack. Without Zack, the choreography in the first Wonder Woman film would have been as shit as in Wonder Woman 84, where Jenkins fired Snyder's VFX team. Make it make sense. You can't. I can't think why she didn't want Zack's team to be involved, the best VFX team in the business. Andy Muschietti obviously knew he had to use them. It's interesting, the VFX you're going to see in the Flash movie as well. There's already been criticism of it. I mean, I don't think it's bad. I think it's interesting. I think it's better in some places than it is others. And we'll certainly discuss that once the movie is on general release on June the 16th, when we can really get into the VFX and talk about it. I've said before, it was a big mistake for me to tread in Man of Steel because Zack made that movie visually perfect. And no one was ever going to be able to tread in that film and do what Zack did. Now credit and kudos to Andy Muschietti for attempting to, but I think, either you tread in another film, not directed by Snyder, I don't know. The whole thing is weird. The whole Flash movie idea, I want to be clear, I like the Flash movie, but the whole Flash movie idea is really strange to me. It really, really is. The way they've gone at this film, the way they're ignoring Superman, the way they've replaced Superman, some of the things they've done. I mean, if you look at you can only look at the trailers thus far because you ain't seen the movie. And I think when you look at the trailers for Zod, you can see that he's very, very robotic. Have you noticed how more robotic he is in this version? And you can say, well, Mick, this is a different, this is an alternate Earth, so he's acting differently. It's just weird. Even his reasons for wanting to do what he's doing, are not similar to the first reasons. And, he's not the Zod. It's a bit like the Flash finale with all the speedster villains, right? They're not as good as they were done before because this is a different creative. So you can bring back classic characters, you can do this, you can do that. You can tread in Man of Steel. But Zack Snyder was the one who made Man of Steel so great. Goyer and Nolan's writing was the reason Man of Steel was so great. Junkie XL's, music was the reason Man of Steel was great. None of those things are there. You can't just get another director to tread in Man of Steel without the Man of Steel, without the people who constructed and molded that movie and think you're going to get something special in it. The Flash movie tries to sell itself on cameos and IPs, and I think that ship has sailed. I really do. I think originality is the thing that people crave, and I think that's why A24 is doing so well. Because A24 say, we don't care if we lose money on our movies. We're going to make movies, because we're not going to make expensive movies. So if we lose some money, it doesn't matter. What we lose on one movie, we'll make a little bit more on the other. Basically, all they want to do is balance the books. A24 just want to make great indie movies. And I spoke the other day about Joaquin Phoenix one they did, where it didn't make money and you had like Access Media going, and all these analysts saying, oh my God, it's a flop. A flop for A24 isn't the same as a flop for Warner Brothers or Disney or Universal or the bigger studios. They work under manageable financial constraints. They know what they're doing. A24 is about artistic integrity. Warner Brothers and Disney are not. They're about IPs and making money, and they're not even making money. A24 and what they're doing in their mentality is the future. It's the mentality that I grew up with. They made Superman the movie, artistic integrity, a beautiful movie that took over 2 years to make. It broke the director to make it, but he made it. Imagine, no CGI, no computers, but he did it. And the film and the effects still look fantastic today. Yes, there's a couple of things that look dated. It wasn't perfect, but at the end of the day, you try making a Superman film from 76 to 78 and see how you get on. Great job. We need to return this industry, and especially superhero movies, to some kind of artistic integrity. And it's one of the things, if we want to save entertainment and save CBMs, maybe to make less of them. I think we're getting far too many CBMs, and I think the MCU needs to reduce how much it's doing. I think it will. I think that's what Iger is striving to do. That's why I think he's going to reduce the Disney Plus MCU content as well. Because, less sometimes can be more. You can make less of something. As I've said many of times, you can have too much of a good thing. You can move in with the most beautiful woman in the world, with the brightest of personality and the greatest of intellect, but if you're stuck with her 24/7, it's going to get boring really quickly. But if you see her once a week, every other day, it's a fresh relationship. It works. But, as I say, you can have too much of a good thing, and I think we do have too many CBMs, and if you want, we can talk about what these missing 20 minutes from the Flash movie are, and, and is. And, look, I think we are looking at something at the end. I would be very, very surprised and disappointed if they haven't tried to fix the ending of the Flash movie. Because I'm in an interesting position, having seen the test screening, because the test screening had more footage than the advanced screenings that if you went to CinemaCon, you saw less than I did. If you saw the advanced screening the other day, you saw less than I did. And let me tell you, the scenes after Barry fixes the timeline, and when Keaton and Calais are there, aka Supergirl and Keaton's Batman, are there in a new timeline. There's a lot to that. It's rounded up. You see them there because, and I think it's important to understand, because unless you've seen the movie, you don't know what happens to them in the Flashpoint timeline. So when Barry sees them in the new timeline, it's a great relief to Barry, because it all kicks off because of something that happens to them in the Flashpoint timeline. That's where the villain rises from and what happens. So when Barry sees them in the new timeline, in the end of the film, it does give a rounded story. By gun-cutting Sasha Calais' Supergirl and Keaton's Batman out of the ending, it makes little sense. And it means that the two characters have had a sudden exit in the Flashpoint timeline. Do you understand what I'm striving at? So I do hope there is an extra 20 minutes to this film. Otherwise, it's going to feel very, very flat. Now, interestingly, the advanced screenings have given some criticism of it feeling a little bit flat in the end. So I think the rumours of an added 20 minutes could be true. It could be 20 minutes different reshoots. We know in the summer they were busy reshooting the movie or elements of the movie. So it's interesting because I understand how desperate they are for this movie to at least make its money back and make a little bit of profit, even reach $1 billion if they can. It's a weird time for box offices. I mean, right now, Disney are releasing their latest live-action fairy tale movie, and it's going to, I think domestically, it's going to make around 100 million. They're bragging about that in its opening weekend, but Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 made 119, 120 million in its opening weekend, which means that, Guardians of the Galaxy is going to make 20 million more in its opening than this brand new live-action fairy tale movie. So that says, and they always try and uphold these movies, these creatively bankrupt movies as well. They try and defend them. And there's a lot of that going on. There's a lot of fighting. There's different sides, because we're getting, you look at a white character and then they, recast it with maybe, you know, minority character actor, and there's controversy, but then it doesn't just stop there, does it? Then they kind of do this whole, oh, let's change the song because the song's problematic. Let's change this. Well, we can't have women being villains. We can't have black people being villains. We can't have Latinx people being villains. And this is where the industry is. This is why the industry is dying a slow, painful death. Once you start allowing lunatics, untalented lunatics, in your business, they are going to destabilize your business. This used to be a fun business to be involved with, where I'm talking about being someone who consumes the stuff or makes the stuff in a very, you know, lower position. It was a fun industry. And now it's not a fun industry because everyone's at war. The culture war is everywhere. Whether you're working in a brewery, a supermarket, it's everywhere. We can't fucking escape it. And that's a big shame. And it's coming to entertainment and it's destroying entertainment. And this is what's happened with the Flash movie as well. We swapped Flashpoint Superman for Flashpoint Supergirl. There's no Superman in the movie like there is a Batfleck. And this is what happens when you allow untalented lunatics, you know, to not necessarily make movies, because Andy Muschietti is talented. I think Christina Hodson has written a solid script. I don't think she's the greatest of writers in the world. And I'm not trying to rewrite history with her, but she's done a better job this time at the very least than she has in the past. I think The Flash is a tight, solid, mostly solid movie in places. But there are problems, and you know, I want DC movies to be successful, but I also don't want to be feeling this superhero fatigue that I'm feeling right now. So I have been very fascinated since hearing the rumor that they're going to add another 20 minutes to the Flash movie, what they could possibly do with it. Adding another 20 minutes now, I think the advanced screenings and the CinemaCon screening was around, 2.5 hours? So that would bring it up to maybe 2 hours, 50 minutes. That's a long movie. So, I want this to be true. I genuinely want this to be true because I want the ending to be more rounded. Because if it's not as rounded, you feel like they've taken something from you, which they have. They've cut that ending of Sasha Calais and Michael Keaton in the new timeline. And if you just take that away, you've got to trust me on this because I've seen the test screening. If you take that ending away, it feels uneven and it doesn't feel like a real movie. So I hope to high heaven that they absolutely have put an extra 20 minutes to that movie, but I don't know how you fix taking Keaton and Calais away. But this is why I said from the beginning that James Gunn using this film as part of his new timeline and a way to enter his new timeline was ill-conceived. This is what I would have done. I would have left Andy Muschietti's Flash movie the fuck alone. If I decided to release this movie, I wouldn't have cut Keaton and Sasha Calais out of the end of the movie. I wouldn't have used this movie to enter into my new timeline. I would have said, hey guys, we're doing all these movies, then that's it for the DCEU, and then we just get into my timeline. There's no way, there's no storytelling way of coming into the new timeline. We just enter a new universe. That's how it's happened, you know. There was no explanation when we went into Christopher Reeve's Superman universe from George Reeves' universe. They didn't go back and try and, do something because they were wise not to. And, it's like Smallville. There was no explanation how we went from Christopher Reeve to Tom Welling. We didn't need to, right? So I think this whole idea, and Gunn should have been intelligent enough to understand this. And I think he's made an absolute mistake. And I haven't put this on Twitter yet, but I'm going to tag him and say this. I think it's an absolute mistake. And if he comes at me, he comes at me with his band of followers. It has to be said, cutting Keaton and Calais out of the end of the movie wasn't a good idea. And if I was them, I'd put them back in. Do you think that this so-called rumoured extra 20 minutes could be putting back Sasha Calais and Michael Keaton? They're using their marketing money to market this film as a Michael Keaton movie. So could they be putting Sasha Calais and Michael Keaton backing the ending of this movie. I think it would be a very, very good idea. It would be something that I would support. Also, do you think the film may have made more money if Christian Bale was the Batman in this movie instead of Michael Keaton? Answers on a postcard, please. Joking. Because I'm not going to tell you my address anyway. And you're not going to send me a fucking postcard. Let me know in the fucking comments. But on TV, back here 34 years ago, of course, they did used to get people to send like letters and things like that and messages to TV shows through postcards. That's how we used to do it. That's how we used to enter competitions before the age of the internet. Wow, it certainly was a different world. So, yes, it will be interesting to see what happens with that final 20 minutes, but I don't think it was a good idea for Gunn to cut Michael Keaton and Sasha Calle. I think it's a bit problematic. I think it's troublesome. I think it's like, basically, it's like me baking you a cake and cutting a quarter off of it and saying, here. You're going to say, but Mick, it looks lovely, but what happened to that quarter? No, what quarter? What are you talking about? It was always like that. You made a cake with a quarter missing, Mick. Yes, of course. Do you get me? You can see the fucking quarters missing. It's one of my best analogies, by the way. You can see the quarter of the cake is missing. There's nobody who doesn't know about this movie and the leaks and what this movie was supposed to be. You should have allowed this movie to stay in one piece and just start your new timeline. Whether you wanted to do a soft reboot or a full reboot, you could have gone in with Superman Legacy. No explanation why we got a new Superman or nothing. It's a new franchise. These things have happened so many times. There was no explanation why we went from George Clooney to Christian Bale. And again, we didn't need a fucking explanation. So James Gunn, from normally a bright, smart guy, has made a mistake here. Messing with the Flash movie was a mistake. She should have left it the fuck alone. There's something else I want to say about the way Hollywood market movies today. Your general audience isn't on the internet very much. Let me repeat that. Your general audience isn't on the internet. Basically, who's on movie Twitter? Who's on DC Twitter? Industry professionals. Access media, geeks and nerds like you and me. We're already going to see, all those groups are already going to see the movie. Geeks and nerds are always going to see the movie, right? You don't need to sell a movie. But, you know, today's entertainment industry decides to market everything online. But your general audience isn't always online. They're not obsessed as we are. They're not as into it as we are. And they already know what they're going to see. They already knew months before the marketing for Guardians Volume 3 started that they were going to see that film because they were invested in it. I know that my brother and sisters were always going to see Shazam! Fury of the Gods because their kids were already, my nieces and nephews, loved them dearly. Hello! We're always going to go and see that movie because they loved the first movie. A general audience knows what it's going to watch. Now, the undecided members of the general audience will go on Rotten Tomatoes and check some reviews, and that's it. And they will check out the scores, but fundamentally, the general audience has an opinion on what they're going to watch. So if they saw a film and they didn't like the first one, then they won't continue supporting an IP. They don't have the loyalty that you and me, the geeks and the nerds, have. So I think the industry does need to change the way it markets movies, and I think the way they've marketed The Flash has been wrong. The advanced screenings haven't worked, that's clear, with the 70 million projected opening, the soft 70 million projected opening. The more desperate you look as a studio and as a business, the harder you push something sometimes. The audience can smell your fear. And if they came into this year a little bit more relaxed, I think they would have done a lot more better. I don't think there was any saving Black Adam or Shazam! Fury of the Gods. And the Flash movie, I think, would have made what it's always going to make. I don't think telling people Tom Cruise liked the movie or Stephen King liked the movie is going to add anything. You know, it may add a few people onto the opening, but ultimately it doesn't make a difference because the people who already knew they were watching the Flash movie have been decided for a long time. And the ones will go on Rotten Tomatoes to see the reviews. Who knows what those reviews will be like. and, you know, the Rotten Tomatoes verified critic scores. I know everyone kind of dives onto, you know, everyone does on these platforms on YouTube, dives on the audience scores. You know, audience scores are more important, really. But the person who's undecided to see a movie and goes on Rotten Tomatoes pays no mind to the audience scores, because you don't know the motivations of those audience scores. They have more trust for, you know, the verified critics and what they have to say. Now, I wouldn't trust audiences these days or verified critics to make my mind up about what entertainment I'm going to watch, but that's me. This has been Movies TV Man and Saturday's edition of the DC Universe Daily. Please smash the like button if you love me. Subscribe if you're new. Please have your say. Smash the notification bell if you love this beautiful perfection. And I will see you again in the next video. Until I see you again, goodbye, au revoir, auf Wiedersehen.